Percentage tax. Index for percentage tax. Percentage tax description. Quarterly percentage tax. Who are required to file? How to file, pay. What are the quarterly percentage tax rates? Percentage tax for transactions involving shares of stocks. Who are required to file? How to file, pay. What are the transactions involving share of stocks tax rates? List of relevant revenue issuances. Percentage tax description. Percentage tax is a business tax imposed on persons, entities, or transactions specified under sections 116 to 127 of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, also known as Tax Code, as amended, and as required under special laws. Quarterly percentage tax under sections 116 to 126 of the Tax Code, as amended. The Form 2551Q, Quarterly Percentage Tax Return. Who are required to file? Persons refer to individuals and non-individuals, which include but are not limited to estates, trusts, partnerships, and corporations. Persons who are not VAT registered, who sell goods, properties or services, whose annual gross sales and/or receipts do not exceed 3 million pesos (PHP 3,000). 000.00 and are exempt from value-added tax (VAT) under Section 109 BB of the National Internal Revenue Code, as amended by Republic Act (RA) No. 10,963. Persons who lease residential units where the monthly rental per unit exceeds 15,000 pesos (PHP 15,000.00), but the aggregate of such rentals of the lessor during the year does not exceed 3 million pesos (PHP 3,000,000.00). Persons engaged in the following industries, transactions: cars for rent or hire driven by the lessee, transportation contractors, including persons who transport passengers for hire, and other domestic carriers by land for the transport of passengers, except owners of bankers and owners of animal-drawn two-wheeled vehicle, and keepers of garages. International air shipping carriers doing business in the Philippines on the gross receipts derived from transport of cargo from the Philippines to another country. Franchise grantees of radio and/or television broadcasting companies whose annual gross receipts for the preceding year do not exceed PHP 10,000,000.00 and did not opt to register as VAT taxpayers, and gas and water utilities. Overseas dispatched message or conversation transmitted from the Philippines by telephone, telegraph, telewriter exchange, wireless and other communication equipment services, except those transmitted by the Philippine government or any of its political subdivisions or instrumentalities. Diplomatic services. Public international organizations or any of their agencies based in the Philippines enjoying privileges, exemptions and immunities which the Philippine government is committed to recognize pursuant to international agreement, and news services for messages which deal exclusively with the collection of news items for, or the dissemination of news item through, public press. Radio or television broadcasting or a news sticker service furnishing a general news service similar to that of the public press. Banks, non-bank financial intermediaries performing quasi-banking functions. Other non-bank financial intermediaries, including pawnshops as clarified under Revenue Regulations, RR No. 10/2004. Person, company or corporation, except purely cooperative companies or associations doing life insurance business in the Philippines. Fire, marine or miscellaneous agents of foreign insurance companies. Proprietor, lessee or operator of cockpits, cabarets, night or day clubs, boxing exhibitions, professional basketball games, Jaya Lion racetracks, including video bars, karaoke bars, karaoke televisions, karaoke boxes and music lounges as clarified under Revenue Memorandum Circular, RMC No. 18/2010. Winnings or dividends, in horse races. How to file, pay. Documentary requirements. The Form 2551Q, Quarterly Percentage Tax Return Form. Duly issued Certificate of Creditable Tax withheld at source per Form 2307, if applicable. Duly approved tax debit memo, if applicable. For amended return, proof of payment and the return previously filed. Authorization letter, if filed by an authorized representative. Copy of Certificate of Registration issued by Cooperative Development Authority for Cooperatives, and from the National Electrification Administration for Electric Cooperatives. Procedures. For manual filing and/or payment, download the newly revised BER Form 2551Q PDF file format under the BER Forms VAT Percentage Tax Returns section of the BER website. Properly fill up BER Form 2551Q in triplicate copies. Proceed to any authorized agent bank AAB located within the territorial jurisdiction of the Revenue District Office RDO, where the taxpayer is registered and present the duly accomplished BER Form 2551Q and other requirements. If paying manually, present the aforementioned documents together with BER prescribed deposit slip and payment to the respective AAB. The quarterly percentage tax shall be paid at the time the return is filed by the taxpayer. In places where there are no AABs, the duly accomplished BER Form 2551Q, together with the required attachments and payment, shall be filed, paid with the Revenue Collection Officer (RCO). Through the Mobile Revenue Collection Officer System (MRCOS) facility, or duly authorized treasurer of the city or municipality where said business or principal place of business where the taxpayer is registered, who will issue an electronic revenue official receipt error. Receive copy of BER Form 2551Q duly validated, stamp received by the AAB, RCO, authorized city or municipal treasurer. Manual filers who want to pay online can pay through GCash Mobile Payment, Land Bank of the Philippines, LBP, Link Biz Portal, for taxpayers who have ATM account with LBP, Bank Niay ATM or debit card. Or DBP Tax Online, for holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, Bank Niay ATM or debit card. For EAFPS filing and/or payment, use the existing and enhanced old BER Form 2551Q in the EFPS system, which contains all the alphanumeric tax codes (ATCs) enumerated in the said form in filing the return. Taxable amount to be indicated in the quarterly percentage return shall be the total gross sales receipts for the quarter. In case percentage taxes for the first, second and or third month of the quarter had been paid, payment estimated to be reflected in BER Form 2551Q in Item No. 20A creditable percentage tax withheld per BER Form 2307. After e-filing, proceed to online payment by clicking the Proceed to Payment button and pay the quarterly percentage tax due. For EBIR forms filing and/or payment, use the existing enhanced old BER Form 2551Q in offline EBIR forms package V7, which contained all the alphanumeric tax codes (ATCs) enumerated in BER Form 2551M in filing the return. Taxable amount to be indicated in the quarterly percentage return shall be the total gross sales receipts for the quarter. In case percentage taxes for the first, second and or third month of the quarter had been paid, payment estimated to be reflected in BER Form 2551Q in Item No. 20A creditable percentage tax withheld per BER Form 2307. Proceed to any AAB located within the territorial jurisdiction of the RDO where the taxpayer is registered and present the duly accomplished BER Form 2551Q and other requirements. If there is payment that will be done manually, present the aforementioned documents together with BER prescribed deposit slip and payment to the respective AAB. The percentage tax shall be paid at the time the return is filed by the taxpayer. In places where there are no AABs, the duly accomplished BER Form 2551Q, together with the required attachments and payment, shall be filed, paid with the RCO, through the MRCOS facility. Or duly authorized treasurer of the city or municipality where said business or principal place of business where the taxpayer is registered, who will issue an electronic revenue official receipt error. EBIR forms filers who want to pay online can pay through GCash Mobile Payment, Land Bank of the Philippines, LBP, Link Biz Portal, for taxpayers who have ATM account with LBP, Bank Niay ATM or debit card. Or DBP Tax Online, for holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, Bank Niay ATM or debit card. Note: no payment returns filed late will result on imposition by the RDO of penalties, which shall be paid at the concerned AAB. When to file, pay. Within 25 days after the end of each taxable quarter. Quarterly percentage tax rates table. Coverage. Taxable base. Tax rate. Non-VAT registered persons under Section 109 BB. Gross sales or receipts. 3%. Domestic carriers and keepers of garages. Gross receipts. 3%. International air shipping carriers doing business in the Philippines. Gross receipts on transport of cargo from the Philippines to a foreign country. 3%. Franchise grantees. Gas and water utilities. Radio and television broadcasting companies whose annual gross receipts of the preceding year do not exceed PHP 10 million and did not opt to register as VAT taxpayer. Gross receipts. Gross receipts. 2%. 3%. Overseas dispatched message or conversation originating from the Philippines. Amount paid for the service. 10%. Banks and non-bank financial intermediaries performing quasi-banking functions. Interest, commissions and discounts from lending activities as well as income from financial leasing, on the basis of remaining maturities of instruments from which receipts are derived. If maturity period is 5 years or less. 5%. If maturity period is more than 5 years. 1%. Dividends and equity shares and net income of subsidiaries. 0%. Royalties, rentals of property, real or personal, profits from exchange and all other items treated as gross income under Sec 32 of the Tax Code, as amended. 7%. Net trading gains within the taxable year of foreign currency, debt securities, derivatives and other similar financial instruments. 7%. Other non-bank financial intermediaries. Interest, commissions, discounts and all other items treated as gross income under the Tax Code, as amended. 5%. Interest, commissions, discounts from lending activities, as well as income from financial leasing on the basis of remaining maturities of instruments from which such receipts are derived. If maturity period is 5 years or less. 5%. If maturity period is more than 5 years. 1%. Life insurance company, agent corporation, except purely cooperative companies or associations. Total premiums collected. 2%. Agents of foreign insurance companies, except reinsurance premium. Insurance agents authorized under the Insurance Code to procure policies of insurance for companies not authorized to transact business in the Philippines. Total premiums collected. 4%. Owners of property obtaining insurance directly with foreign insurance companies. Total premiums paid. 5%. Proprietor, lessee or operator of the following. Cockpits. Gross receipts. 18%. Cabarets, night or day clubs, video bars, karaoke televisions, karaoke boxes and music lounges. Gross receipts. 18%. Boxing exhibitions, except when the World or Oriental Championship is at stake in any division. Provided further that at least one of the contenders for World Championship is a citizen of the Philippines and said exhibitions are promoted by a citizen of the Philippines or by a corporation. Association at least 60% of the capital of which is owned by said citizen. Gross receipts. 10%. Professional basketball games, in lieu of all other percentage taxes of whatever nature and description. Gross receipts. 15%. Jai and racetrack. Gross receipts. 30%. Winnings on horse races. Winnings or dividends. 10%. Winnings from double forecast quinella and trifecta bets. 4%. Prizes of owners of winning racehorses. 10%. Return to index. Percentage tax for transactions involving shares of stocks under Section 127 of the Tax Code, as amended. Form 2552 percentage tax return for transactions involving shares of stocks listed and traded through the local stock exchange or through initial and/or secondary public offering. Who are required to file? Every stockbroker who effected a sale, barter or exchange of shares of stock listed and traded through the local stock exchange other than the sale by a dealer in securities, which tax shall be paid by the seller, transferor. A corporate issuer, engaged in the sale, exchange or other disposition through initial public offering (IPO) of shares of stock in closely held corporations. A stockbroker who effected a sale, exchange or other disposition through secondary public offering of shares of stock in closely held corporations. How to file, pay. Documentary requirements. Form 2552 percentage tax return for transactions involving shares of stocks. Duly issued certificate of creditable tax withheld at source BER Form 2307, if applicable. Proof of exemption for transactions not subject to tax, if applicable. Duly approved tax debit memo, if applicable. For amended return, proof of payment and the return previously filed. Authorization letter, if filed by an authorized representative. Procedures. For manual filing and/or payment. Properly fill up the existing old BER Form 2552 in triplicate copies using the new tax rate, then compute the tax due thereon. Proceed to any AAB located within the territorial jurisdiction of the RDO where the broker or corporate issuer is registered, and present the duly accomplished old BER Form 2552, together with the required attachments. If paying manually, present the aforementioned documents together with BER prescribed deposit slip, and payment to the respective AAB. The percentage tax involving shares of stocks shall be paid at the time the return is filed by the taxpayer. Receive the BER Form 2552 taxpayer's copy duly validated and stamp received by the teller of the AAB. Manual filers who want to pay online can pay through GCash Mobile Payment, Land Bank of the Philippines, LBP, Link Biz Portal. For taxpayers who have ATM account with LBP, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. Or DBP Tax Online, for holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. For EFPS filing and/or payment. File online using the existing BER Form 2552 in the EFPS and pay online the corresponding taxes due thereon by proceeding to payment. The result of this transaction is deficiency tax. To cover the deficiency tax, EFPS filers shall likewise file and pay online the deficiency tax using BER Form No. 0605 and fill in the corresponding information in the tax type, St. Percentage Tax, Stocks, and ATC field, ATC MC031 deficiency tax, in lieu of the correct BER form that should have been used. EFPS filers who want to pay online can pay through GCash Mobile Payment, Land Bank of the Philippines, LBP, Link Biz Portal. For taxpayers who have ATM account with LBP, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. Or DBP Tax Online, for holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. Note: once the enhanced version of the BER Form 2552 is available in EFPS, there will be a notification, announcement through a Revenue Memorandum Circular, RMC. Guidelines shall be issued accordingly if there is a necessity whether or not to amend the previously filed returns in EFPS. For EBIR forms filing and payment. File online using the existing BER Form 2552 in the EBIR forms package and pay the corresponding tax dues via over-the-counter (OTC) of AAB under the jurisdiction of the RDO where the taxpayer is registered. For EBIR forms filers who want to pay online, you can pay through GCash Mobile Payment, Land Bank of the Philippines, LBP, Link Biz Portal. For taxpayers who have ATM account with LBP, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. Or DBP Tax Online, for holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, Bank Niya ATM or debit card. The result of this transaction through EBIR forms is deficiency tax. To cover the resulting deficiency tax, EBIR forms filers shall likewise file and pay online the deficiency tax using BER Form No. 0605 and fill in the corresponding information in the tax type, St. Percentage Tax, Stocks, and ATC field, ATC MC031 deficiency tax, in lieu of the BER Form 2552 that should have been used. Note: no payment returns filed late will result on penalties that will be imposed by the RDO, which shall be paid at the concerned AAB. When to file, pay. For tax on sale of shares of stocks listed and traded through the local stock exchange (LSE) within 5 banking days from the date of collection. For tax on shares of stocks sold or exchanged through primary offering within 30 days from the date of listing in the LSE. For tax on shares of stocks sold or exchanged through secondary public offering within 5 banking days from the date of collection. Note: aside from BER Form No. 2552, a stockbroker or corporate issuer is also required to submit a true and complete return to the Secretary of the stock exchange of which he is a member. The said A return shall contain a declaration of all transactions effected through him during the preceding week and of taxes collected by him and turned over to the BER. Percentage tax for transactions involving shares. Rates table. Coverage basis tax rate. Sale, barter, exchange or other disposition of shares of stock listed and traded through the local stock exchange other than the sale by a dealer of securities. Gross selling price or gross value in money 0.6%. Sale, barter or exchange or other disposition through initial public offering (IPO), the issuing corporation shall pay the imposed tax. Secondary public offering, the seller shall pay the imposed tax. Gross selling price or gross value in money. Proportion of disposed shares to total outstanding shares after the listing in the local stock exchange. Up to 25%. 4%. Over 25% but not over 33.33%. 2%. Over 33.33%. 1%. Return to index. List of relevant revenue issuances. Revenue regulations (RRs). Issuance no. Subject. Date of issue. RR no. 9-2018. Prescribes the rules and regulations implementing the increase in the stock transfer tax pursuant to RR no. 10,963 Train Law. Published in Manila Bulletin on February 28, 2018. Digest full text. February 26, 2018. RR no. 8-2015. Amends RR no. 6-2015 on the definition of raw cane sugar for purposes of the imposition of advance business tax, value-added tax or percentage tax, and for other related purposes. Published in Manila Bulletin on May 28, 2015. Digest full text. May 27, 2015. RR no. 6-2015. Implements regulations imposing advance business tax, VAT or percentage tax payments on sugar and for other related purposes. Published in Manila Bulletin on April 1, 2015. Digest full text. March 31, 2015. RR no. 8-2008. Supplementing revenue regulations no. 9-2004, as amended by revenue regulations no. 10-2004, clarifying that the transactions of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas (BSP) entered into the exercise of its governmental, regulatory authority are outside of the coverage of the gross receipts tax imposed under Sections 121 and 122 of the 1997 National Internal Revenue Code, as last amended by Republic Act No. 9337. Published in Philippine Star on August 30, 2008. Digest full text. August 29, 2008. RR no. 9-2007. Prescribing the updated minimum monthly quarterly gross receipts in computing the percentage tax of domestic carriers and keepers of garages. Digest full text. August 1, 2007. RR no. 9-2004. Implements certain provisions of Republic Act No. 9238, reimposing the gross receipts tax on banks and non-bank financial intermediaries performing quasi-banking functions and other non-bank financial intermediaries beginning January 1, 2004. Published in Manila Standard on July 1, 2004. Digest full text. June 25, 2004. RR No. 15-2002. Governs the imposition of income tax on the gross Philippine billings, other income of international air carriers and common carriers tax, as well as the manner of claiming deductions on travel expenses and freight charges incurred. Published in Manila Bulletin on October 11, 2002. Digest full text. October 7, 2002. RR No. 1-2003. Implementing Section 5 of Republic Act No. 8424, otherwise known as the Tax Reform Act of 1997, and other pertinent provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, as last amended by Republic Act No. 9010, imposing value-added tax (VAT) on sale of services by persons engaged in the practice of profession or calling and professional services rendered by general professional partnerships. Services rendered by actors, actresses, talents, singers and MCs, radio and television broadcasters and choreographers, musical, radio, movie, television and stage directors, and professional athletes, as well as services rendered by customs, real estate, stock, immigration and commercial brokers beginning January 1, 2003. Published in Phil. Daily Inquirer on January 8, 2003. Digest full text. January 7, 2003. Our No. 3-1995. Implementing Republic Act No. 7717, an act imposing a tax on the sale, barter or exchange of shares of stock listed and traded through the local stock exchange or through initial public offering. Amending for the purpose the National Internal Revenue Code, as amended by inserting a new section and repealing certain subsections thereof. February 7, 1995. Revenue Memorandum Circulars, RMCs. Issuance No. Subject. Date of issue. RMC No. 26-2018. Circularizing the revised Burr Form No. 2551Q, Quarterly Percentage Tax Return, January 2018, ENCS Full Text Annex Guidelines. April 25, 2018. RMC No. 2-2018. Provides and transmission procedures for all taxpayers filing tax returns affected by the revised tax rates pursuant to the provisions of RA No. 10,963, Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion or Train Law. Digest. Full text. January 8, 2018. RMC No. 104-2017. Circularizes the copy of RA No. 10,963, Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion, TRAIN Act, and President Duterte's veto message to the TRAIN Act. Digest. Full text. Veto. RA 10,963. December 29, 2017. RMC No. 62-2016. Clarification on proper tax treatment of passed-on gross receipts tax. Digest. Full text. June 14, 2016. RMC No. 71-2015. Allows taxpayers who are mandated to file their tax returns through electronic filing and payment system and electronic Burr forms in areas affected by Typhoon Lando to temporarily file their tax returns and pay their taxes manually. Digest. Full text. October 30, 2015. RMC No. 40-2015. Clarifying the nature and extent of the agricultural cooperative being the producer of sugar for exemption from advance VAT and percentage tax purposes pursuant to Section 5B(c) of Revenue Regulations RR No. 8-2015 in relation to Section 4 of RR No. 13-2008, and in line with Section 8B 2.1.2 of the Joint Rules and Regulations implementing Articles 60, 61 and 144 of Republic Act RA No. 9520, or the Cooperative Code of 2008. Digest. Full text. July 15, 2015. RMC No. 25-2015. Clarifies pertinent provisions of RA No. 6-2015 more particularly on the imposition of advance business tax, value-added tax or percentage tax on raw cane sugar and refined sugar. Digest. Full text. May 6, 2015. RMC No. 24-2015. Clarifies pertinent provisions of Revenue Regulations No. 2-2015 more particularly on the submission of scanned copies of Burr Form NOS. 2307 and 2316. Digest. Full text. May 6, 2015. RMC No. 21-2015. Provides alternative modes in the filing of Burr Form NOS. 2551M, 2551Q, 2550M and 2550Q using the electronic platforms of Burr. Digest. Full text. April 20, 2015. RMC No. 9-2013. Clarifying the taxability of association dues, membership fees and other assessments, charges collected by homeowners associations. Digest. Full text. January 30th, 2013. RMC No. 49-2010. Further amending certain portions of RMC No. 30-2008 as amended by RMC No. 59-2008 on the subject of the taxability of insurance companies for minimum corporate income tax, MCIT, business tax and documentary stamp tax purposes. Digest. Full text. June 7, 2010. RMC No. 18-2010. Clarification on the coverage and taxability of amusement places under Section 125B of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, as amended. Digest. Full text. March 8, 2010. RMC No. 16-2009. Clarifying the instruments embraced by the term deposit substitutes under Revenue Regulations No. 8-2008. Digest. Full text. March 17, 2009. RMC No. 59-2008. Amending certain portions of RMC No. 30-2008 on the subject of the taxability of insurance companies for minimum corporate income tax, business tax and documentary stamp tax purposes. Digest. Full text. August 27, 2008. RMC No. 46-2008. Clarification of issues concerning common carriers by air and their agents relative to the revenue and receipt from transport of passengers' goods, cargoes and mail, and from excess baggage. Digest. Full text. June 20, 2008. RMC No. 30-2008. Clarifies the taxability of insurance companies for minimum corporate income tax, business tax and documentary stamp tax purposes. Digest. Full text. April 8, 2008. RMC No. 73-2004. Guidelines and policies applicable to the business tax applicable to pawnshops as a result of the issuance of Revenue Regulations No. 10-2004, including pawnshops under the classification of other non-bank financial intermediaries in accordance with the power granted the Commissioner of Internal Revenue under Section 4 of Republic Act No. 9238. Digest. Full text. November 26, 2004. RMC No. 37-2004. Settlement of the value-added tax liabilities of pawnshops for taxable years 1996 to 2002. Digest. Full text. Annex A. Annex 1. Annex 2. June 16, 2004. RMC No. 10-2004. Guidelines and policies to supplement RMC No. 9-2004 issued in relation to the implementation of Republic Act No. 9238 for banks and non-bank financial intermediaries, specifically for the reimposition of gross receipts tax. Digest. Full text. February 23, 2004. RMC No. 9-2004. Guidelines and policies applicable to the business tax applicable to banks and non-bank financial intermediaries performing quasi-banking functions and other non-bank financial intermediaries as a result of the enactment and effectivity of Republic Act No. 9238, an act amending certain provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, as amended, by excluding several services from the coverage of the value-added tax and reimposing the gross receipts tax on banks and non-bank financial intermediaries performing quasi-banking functions and other non-bank financial intermediaries beginning January 1, 2004. Digest. Full text. RA 9238. February 19, 2004. RMO No. 69-2003. Clarifying the tax base for purposes of the percentage gross receipts tax imposed under Sections 121 and 122 of the Tax Code. Digest. Full text. October 22, 2003. RMC No. 14-2003. Waiver of penalties on persons engaged in the practice of professional calling and professional services rendered by general professional partnerships, services rendered by actors, actresses, Talents, singers and MCs, radio and television broadcasters and choreographers, musical, radio, movie, television and stage directors, and professional athletes, and services rendered by customs. Real estate, stock, immigration and commercial brokers becoming liable to VAT or percentage tax, whichever is applicable, beginning January 1, 2003 who failed to file their VAT, percentage tax returns for the months of January and February on the due dates specified under Revenue Regulations No. 1-2003, as amended by Revenue Regulations NOS. 3-2003 and 11-2003. Digest. Full text. March 26, 2003. RMC No. 6-2003. Clarifying certain issues relative to the services rendered by individual professional practitioners, general professional partnerships, entertainers, and professional athletes who are subject to the value-added tax or percentage tax, whichever is applicable, beginning January 1, 2003. Digest. Full text. Annex A. January 22, 2003. RMC No. 51-2002. Imposition of the gross receipts tax under Sections 121 and 122 of the Tax Code on items of gross income subject to final withholding tax and clarifying the tax base thereof. Digest. November 15, 2002. Return to index.